Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Puri Brajakacharya Ashtotar Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna, and welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Monday, January 6th, 2025 in New York, and today we're picking up with Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 8, and our starting verse tonight is
78.
78. Let me look at that.
If I'm not wrong.
If you'll me, Maharaj, we actually got to verse 82.
So much for that.
But if you like, we can certainly go back. It's no problem.
No.
It's all good.
You don't go back. You honor my confusion.
Hare Krishna. Text 82. We actually did have a couple of comments that were left over from our previous talk. We ran out of time, but we'll get back to those in the course of our presentation today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So last we read, the demigods said, Dear Lord, you are the refuge of all moving and non-moving living entities. We feel all living entities to be suffocating, their breathing processes choked up. We have never experienced such a thing. Since you are the ultimate shelter of all surrendered souls, we have therefore approached you. Kindly save us from this danger. And now text 82. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ma Bhaishtabalam Tapaso Duratyayan Nivarta Yishye Pratiyata Svadhama Yato Hiva Prana Nirodha Asid Autanapadir Mayi Sangatatma. The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, My dear demigods, do not be perturbed by this. It is due to the severe austerity and full determination of the son of King Uttanapad, who is now fully absorbed in thought of me. He has obstructed the universal breathing process. You can safely return to your respective homes. I shall stop this boy in his severe acts of austerities, and you will be saved from this situation. Here, one word, Sangatatma, is misinterpreted by the Mayavadi philosophers, who say that the self of Dhruva Maharaj became one with the Supreme Self, the personality of Godhead. The Mayavadi philosophers want to prove by this word that the supersoul and the individual soul become united in this way, and that after such unification, the individual soul has no separate existence. But here it is clearly said by the Supreme Lord that Dhruva Maharaj was so absorbed in meditation on the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that he himself, the universal consciousness, was attracted to Dhruva. In order to please the demigods, he wanted to go himself to Dhruva Maharaj to stop him from this severe austerity. The Mayavadi philosopher's conclusion that the supersoul and the individual soul become united is not supported by this statement. Rather, the supersoul, the personality of Godhead, wanted to stop Dhruva Maharaj from this severe austerity. By pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one pleases everyone, just as by watering the root of a tree, one satisfies every branch, twig, and leaf of the tree. If one can attract the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one naturally attracts the whole universe, because Krishna is the supreme cause of the universe. All the demigods were afraid of being totally vanquished by suffocation. But the personality of Godhead assured them that Dhruva Maharaj was a great devotee of the Lord and was not about to annihilate everyone in the universe. A devotee is never envious of other living entities. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Dhruva Maharaj leaves home for the forest. Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada focuses right away on this compound word Sangatatma, which in the word for words is fully absorbed in thought of me. Apparently, this verse under discussion today is the only place in the Bhagavatam, at least according to my search results, in which this compound word shows up. But apparently the Mayavadis like to try to use this word to put forward their theory that the soul and the supersoul become united. Of course, Sanskrit is a pliable language, and if you have some background, you can make things mean almost whatever you want them to mean, apparently. But apparently they have a difficult time sometimes, especially with the Srimad Bhagavatam, because you have verses like this, which are spoken by Narayan himself. And Shankaracharya is famous for saying, Narayana paro vyaktat. Narayana is beyond the whole material manifestation. So if you have Narayan himself speaking this verse, Sangatatma, that includes that word, which just means absorbed in thought of me. There's two parts of it, Sangata and Atma. Atma means self. Sangata means, in this case, absorbed. It also means associated with. So there's two things. When there's association, there's one thing associating with another thing. So Narayan himself speaking this verse about Dhruva Maharaj, how he himself is attracted to Dhruva, which usually we hear about the system of yoga coming from the other direction, that you make yourself so focused, that you become so focused and attracted to the Supreme Lord. But here it's coming from the other way, as he's explaining to the demigods there. So, yes, I'd be happy to hear from you, Maharaj, if you have some comments here.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharane Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatute Shatarane. Well, you hit precisely the point that I had in mind, that Sangata means associated with. So that means you've got two-ness. You can't have one item associated with itself. So the whole notion of the Mayavadi philosophers is wrong. And the Lord wants to, Dhruva wants to do something, and the Lord wants to stop him. So that means there's individuality, even though they're associated. There's difference. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
They're so persistent. This is the demonic nature. The demons just don't want to give up. However stretched it is, however improbable it is, however against the laws of ordinary grammar or common sense it is. No, it means this, it means this. It's an obnoxious mentality, actually. Somehow or other to go on insisting that it means something it doesn't mean, that rules apply which don't apply. So it's a demonic mentality, and it comes from envy. Atanaham dvishata kruran. In the Bhagavad Gita, the demons are described as envious, dvishata, envious of the Lord, envious of others, just envious. They're people, I think we're so accustomed to devotee association that we don't, and even the association of people who are, well, let's just say normal, materially speaking, that we don't recognize sometimes that there are people who are just vicious, who are, what's the word, ardently envious, and who'll go to any lengths to deny the personality of Godhead or even deny the existence of the spirit soul. That's there, not just well, I don't know, or I'm not convinced, or who knows, or I don't think so. No, it's like a vicious, envious mentality. So that's there among the demonic, and of course the Mayavadis don't come on like that, but they're what would you say, sophisticated envy. Their envy gets channeled into a form of rational discourse, which is every bit as envious, but which appears in intellectual fashion or pseudo-intellectual fashion. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So Prabhupada's, of course, his perennial target is someone who'll say, it's not to Krishna that we must surrender, but to the unborn, beginningless, something. Still, somehow or other, how to deny the personality of Godhead. Abhajananti mam buddha. Manashantana manashantam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Just to underscore what you were saying, Maharaj, I was reading that very purport that Prabhupada used to pick on the unscrupulous commentators about manmana bhava madbhakto. And it's funny how one of the CV, the points of qualification of the Duskratinas and the Mudhas is Maya Prahritya Jnana. The knowledge is right there in front of your face, and you just can't see it. You refuse to see it. You're unable to see it. Because it's stolen. It just goes right by you. There's no recognition. There's cognition. Your eyes are seeing it, but it doesn't register.
It just, as you were speaking, just like the thought crossed my mind, like someone's playing around with your wife and you don't see it. Everyone else sees it, but you can't see it. No, my wife loves me. Da 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 da. And anyone can see it, but you can't see it. And there's so many things like that. Everyone can see it except us. So the Mayavadis like that. They can't see it because Prabhupada said in one place that it's because of envy and stubborn obstinacy.
Yeah. There's some other things in the chat. Ras Prabhu, are you able to see the chat items?
Yes. Praveen Krishna Prabhu writes, which form of the Lord are the demigods speaking with?
It would be Narayan in one or another form, not Krishna.
Praveen Krishna Prabhu writes, was the Lord waiting for the demigods before he went to Dhruva? He couldn't go earlier before the suffocation began?
Spoils the pastime. The Lord has his own, he's like a drama. It's easy. The director has total control over the film. Why does the hero have to go through so much trouble? He can just, slay his adversary and marry the girl within the first 15 minutes. But then there's no drama.
Vijay Krishna Prabhu writes, is stubbornness a bad quality? Are demons stubborn? Are we to find the quality of stubbornness in godly people?
Yes, we can. Who's that verse by Madhavendra Puri that my relatives may call me mad and other people may criticize me. We quoted that verse from Nectar of Devotion, or quoted it from Nectar of Devotion some days back. But he said, still I won't budge an inch from the determination to serve the personality of Godhead, Govinda, even though I'm unfit to do so. So devotee also has a stubbornness. You say what you want, but I'm going to go on serving Krishna. I don't care what you say. That's called transcendental stubbornness. But the stubborn adherence to the absolute truth, steady devotion, stubborn devotion to the absolute truth, and the demons, it's steady opposition to the absolute truth. So the same stubbornness, when connected favorably with the absolute truth, becomes a virtue, and when directed against the absolute truth, becomes the worst vice. Hare Krishna.
Murari Gupta Prabhu writes, Hare Krishna Maharaj, I find it interesting that Srila Prabhupada skips over the details that a 5-year-old had the potential to destroy the universe and makes a philosophical point against Mayavad philosophy. It indicates to me what Srila Prabhupada's priorities were.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Just to go back to an overhanging comment or question from our last session, still in the same topic, we're still in this chapter for a few minutes. I wanted to go back. This was a question that came in from Preeti Purnamadari Devi. Let me see if she's in today's assembly. Yes. So the question is, can this verse, in other words, the previous verse describing the difficulty the demigods were going through, can this verse indicate the superiority of a Vaishnava over demigods? Also in Krishna book, it was mentioned that the Supreme Personality is not directly accessible to demigods, and they approach Lord Brahma. So in one sense, Dhruva Maharaj got the position higher than that of Lord Brahma.
Well, certainly his position was higher than the demigods. I don't think we can just say that because this devotee put the demigods in difficulty, it demonstrates that the devotee's position is superior, because Hiranyakashipu did the same thing. He put the demigods into terrible affliction. So it's not just for that. Really, of course, it's an opposite case, but the more it indicates the position of the demigods, that their immortal existence is fragile. They're reigning, and you're residing in the heavenly planets where everything is free from troubles and so on and so on. But just see someone undergoing tapasya, whether it's Dhruva Maharaj or Hiranyakashipu, can put the demigods into suffocation or fear or what have you. So much for the divine immortals. They're Kshiyani Punye Marchulokam Vishanti. When their piety is exhausted, they have to go back down to earth. So they have a fragile, compromised immortality, whereas the devotee has genuine, eternal, liberated existence. Hare Krishna.
When you were speaking, Maharaj, that called to mind a question I didn't have time to ask on Friday because we ran out of time, but along the same lines, here we have an example. Dhruva Maharaj, as Prabhupada says at the end of the purport, he's not about to annihilate everyone in the universe. The demigods can rest easy. Devotee is not envious. But we see here's a successful practice of Ashtanga Yoga, resulting in this tremendous difficulty within the universe. And it's just, I think it's an interesting point that you mentioned also Hiranyakashipu, who caused tremendous difficulty by the force of his yoga, and it's almost like an advertisement against Ashtanga yoga. Like, you really, don't do that. Good or bad, the effects won't be what it's like it's a dangerous thing.
It's so powerful. Hare Krishna.
Another thing in the chat here from Praveen Krishna, I'll read it, Ross Prabhu, it's okay. Seems from the purport that some Mayavadi commented on the Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada is referring to that. Or is it that Prabhupada is referring to how Mayavadis interpret this sloka?
When you say how Mayavadis interpret this sloka, that would be that somebody wrote a commentary. So I don't see the difference here. But it does seem that Prabhupada's responding to something. They're not just, either he's responding to something or Purvacharyas have responded to it and Prabhupada's conveying the response. Hare Krishna.
And Saraswati Devi has a hand up.
Pranams Param Pujya Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. I was reading a while ago I think it was the Madhya Leela, and Srila Prabhupada in the purport, well, of course, he was talking about Nivritti Marg and Pravritti Marg, but he made a comment that although the Mayavadis are situated on the Nivritti Marg, but the fact that their end goal is to extinguish their individuality, those who are firmly on the Pravritti Marg and, into sense gratification, they are better situated than the Mayavadis because at least their end goal is to have an individual self to enjoy. That sort of really struck out to me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. An example of looking at something from different angles of view. From one point of view, sometimes Prabhupada will say, naturally that those who are self-realized are in a higher position. But here, those who are self-realized are in a lower position because of their opposition to individual existence. Hare Krishna.
Jai, any other comments or questions here on this chapter of Dhruva Maharaj leaves home for the forest before we hear how he returns home? Anything you'd like to say in closing on the chapter in all of a piece, Maharaj? No?
Yeah.
I was going to then ask if Madhupati Prabhu would be willing to read our first verse of Dhruva Maharaj returns home.
Okay. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Gurudas Jayadvaita Swami Namane. Canto 4, Chapter 9, Text number 1. Maitreya Vacha Na Tvamutsanabhaya Urukrame Kirta Vanamaha Prayayutri Vistapam Sahasra Shirshapi Tato Mata Madho Vanamritya Didrikshaya Gataha. The great sage Maitreya told Vidura, when the demigods were thus reassured by the personality of Godhead, they were freed from all fears, and after offering their obeisances, they returned to the heavenly planets. Then the Lord, who is non-different from the Sahasra incarnation, got on the back of Garuda, who carried him to the Madhuvan forest to see his servant Dhruva. Purport. The word Sahasra refers to the personality of Godhead known as Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Although the Lord appeared as Shirodakshay Vishnu, he has been described here as Sahasra Vishnu because he is non-different from Garbhodakshay Vishnu. According to Srila Rupa Goswami in his Laghu Bhagavatamrita, the Sahasra personality of Godhead who appeared at that time was the incarnation known as Rishnigarbha. He created the planet known as Dhruva for the habitation of Dhruva Maharaj. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmitan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. So we see that the demigods pacified by the Supreme Personality of Godhead returns back to the heavenly planets after offering their obeisances to the Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord, referred here as Sahasra Garbhodakshai Vishnu, got on the back of Garuda and Garuda carried the Supreme Lord to the Madhuban forest where Dhruva Maharaj was performing these austerities and worshipping the Supreme Lord. So, Srila Prabhupada comments that the Sahasra personality of Godhead who appeared at that time was the incarnation known as Rishni Garbha. And he is the one who created the planet known as Dhruva for the habitation of Dhruva Maharaj. After the Lord pacifies Dhruva, he gives darshan to Dhruva and grants him the kingdom higher than his great grandfather. Yeah, that's all I have on this one.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Maharaj, any comments from you here?
No?
I was just looking to see whether we might have missed some commentary from Srila Vishwanath. Oh, just going back one verse, the translation and commentary from his commentaries for the previous verse at the end of the last chapter, just to bring us up to date with Srila Vishwanath. The Lord said, "Do not fear," speaking to the demigods, "return to your homes. I will stop the boy from doing impossible austerities. He has concentrated his mind fully on me. Because of him, your breath has been stopped." And then the commentary, "Because of the boy doing austerities, yataha, when he stops his breath, your breath also stops. You should not fear, thinking that you will die. He has simply concentrated his mind on me. This will not destroy anything." So that's that. All right, Krishna. Would you like to read another one, Madhupati Prabhu? That was a very short purport. Oh, we've lost him. Alas. All right, Krishna. Ras Prabhu, would you like to read verse number 2 in chapter 9?
I was thinking maybe now that we've lost him, he'll appear in person before us, but that's not Madhupati.
Maybe if we meditate on him with great determination. Now, Ras Prabhu, please go ahead. If he appears, that's great.
Davaidya Yoga Vipaka Tivreya Padma Kuse Shritam Tadit Prabham Tirohitam Saservo Palaksya Bahi Stitam Tad Asvatam Dadarsha. Translation: the form of the Lord, which was brilliant like lightning, and in which Dhruva Maharaj, in his mature yogic process, was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Thus Dhruva was perturbed, and his meditation broke. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. Purport: because of his mature position in yogic meditation, Dhruva Maharaj was constantly observing the form of the personality of Godhead within his heart, but all of a sudden, when the Supreme Personality disappeared from his heart, he thought that he had lost him. Dhruva Maharaj was perturbed, but upon seeing his eyes and breaking his meditation, he saw the same form of the Lord before him. In the Brahma Samhita 538, it is said, Brahmanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. A saintly person who has developed love of Godhead by devotional service always sees the Lord's transcendental form of Shamasundar. This Shamasundar form of the Lord within the heart of a devotee is not imaginary. When a devotee becomes mature in his prosecution of devotional service, he sees face to face the same Shamasundar he has thought of during the entire course of his devotional service. Since the Supreme Lord is absolute, the form within the heart of a devotee, the form in the temple, and the original form in Vaikuntha, Vrindavan Dham, are all the same. They are non-different from one another.
Any thoughts here, Prabhu? Comments? Anything?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Thanks for reading. Maharaj, would you like to say something?
Yeah, this word is there. These words are there. Yoga vipaka tivraya. Vipaka is mature, ripe, mature. Yoga vipaka. Tivraya, the mature realization. I assume tivraya means intense. By intense and continuous austerity, meditation, devotion, dhya, meditation, he realized the personality of Godhead, Padma Koshe, Spurita, manifests on the lotus of his heart. So he was, and Prabhupada quotes Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. So it's, in the beginning, we're told that there's no difference between Krishna and his holy name. There's no difference between Krishna and his form in the temple. And we accept that, yes, Guru Maharaj has said this, Shastra has said this. But when one's realization is mature, like Guru Maharaj, he sees it. He sees there's Krishna, there's the Lord on within my heart. So Dhruva Maharaj achieved that within a short time. He had, although he was just a child, the Mayavadis will go on for lifetimes and lifetimes and not reach this level of realization. And Dhruva Maharaj, under the guidance of Narada Muni, within a very short time, could see the personality of Godhead within his heart. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. As you were speaking, I was considering how this pastime unfolds and how the Lord chooses to appear and first disappear from Dhruva's internal meditation. Then he has to open his eyes to see the Lord standing there before him. It just seems very playful the way that the Lord chooses to appear before his devotees. It's a Leela, certainly. It reminds me of the pastime of the Brahmana who is offering the sweet rice in his by Manasa puja, and then got his finger burned, and his meditation broke, and the Lord in Vaikuntha was laughing, and that whole pastime. It's just the Lord has these sweet relationships and appears and causes things to happen with his devotees that are. It's just, I have to say, transcendental, so much fun.
Yes, and also he intensifies the ecstasy of the devotee, the feeling of the devotee by this element of separation. So Krishna's with the gopis, but then he disappears, and they go practically mad, looking for him. Narad Muni, Krishna appears and then disappears and says, "That's it. in this lifetime, you're not going to see me again. I've just appeared to, for the sake of increasing your eagerness to see me. So that, although it's just momentary, he does that with Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj is in deep ecstasy, seeing the Lord on and on. But then the Lord intensifies the experience by disappearing. And then, of course, appears before him. Hare Krishna. And Sahasa, all of a sudden he disappears. No warning, like Tadit Prabham, lightning suddenly appears or suddenly is gone. So the Lord disappears from the heart of Dhruva Maharaj, but then immediately appears before him. Hare Krishna.
Srila Vishwanath mentions that to some greater length, but there's a comment here from Murai Gupta Prabhu.
Murari Gupta Prabhu writes, since all forms of the Lord are the same, why does the Lord travel on Garuda to go to where he already is?
Or for that matter, he can just appear. He doesn't need to do, I was thinking about that actually, how he's traveling on Garuda. Why does he doesn't need to travel on Garuda. He could just immediately show up wherever he wants. Or as you say, he's already there. So again, this is the Lord's pastime. First of all, it gives Garuda something to do without the Lord taking advantage of this method. We wouldn't have, Garuda wouldn't have this service. And it's again, as Ekendra said, the Lord's pastimes. He takes pleasure. Just my mother used to sometimes go to the Caribbean on a cruise from New York. So I don't know how long it takes, like a week or 2 weeks or something like that. And on a flight, you could be there in 4 hours. So why take this long way around, go by ship, take a week to do something that you could do in a few hours? But it's pleasure. The people on the ship enjoy traveling in that way. So the Lord enjoys. He enjoys. He's everywhere, so he can see everything. What is that? Sarvata Panipada, Sarvatokshi Shiromukam. His eyes are everywhere. But still, he enjoys getting carried by Trinavarta, the whirlwind demon, so that he can get a bird's eye view of Vrindavan. So that's his enjoyment. He could do it anyway, but he enjoys this whole pastime. So the Lord enjoys traveling on Garuda. There are sweet exchanges of service, and the Lord takes pleasure in this royal pastime of flying on Garuda.
Thank you so much. Saraswati Mata, please go ahead.
We're told here how Dhruva's, when he became completely perfect, his meditation broke and he sakshat had darshana of the Lord. But my question is that with Madhvendra Puri, who was a very advanced, pure devotee, when the Lord came as a little boy and gave him the pot of milk, Madhvendra Puri, Sri Madhvendra Puri didn't immediately recognize that this is Krishna who has come and given me this milk. And of course, we know that he also had dreams about the Govinda deity and how he established the deity, but all the instructions came in a dream. So I'm just wondering that also there were very advanced devotees in Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji's Leela who also didn't immediately know that this is Krishna. So is that, can we just say that's another sweetness of their Leelas? Hare Krishna.
Yes, why does Krishna have to do it always the same? Like if you've got an author who's got 10 novels and you know that the endings are all going to be the same. The character are all going to act the same way. Every circumstance is going to have the same evolution and outcome. Then it's boring. It's boring. You want variety. And that's described about Krishna, that his pastimes are full of variety. That's what makes one aspect that makes them so attractive. He doesn't always do everything the same way with the same outcome. But there's variety to it, and that gives taste.
Murari Gupta Prabhu writes, "Thank you, Maharaj. The enjoyment is in the details."
Mm.
Veen,
In the
Krishna.
details and even in the outline, Krishna, does something just a totally different way, a totally different pastime. So sometimes it's the details, sometimes it's the whole scope that's different. Sometimes he comes as a hog, sometimes he comes as a half lion, half man. And so there's all sorts of details and overall differences also.
There's something in the chat from Praveen Krishna Prabhu. He says, I can imagine how Dhruva wouldn't have opened his eyes if his vision of the Lord in his heart didn't disappear.
Yes, that was his practice. The eyes were closed, he's absorbed in samadhi. And Krishna breaks the whole thing. Even in ordinary affairs, we think that we're going on nicely, everything's all right. And maybe we're chanting 16 rounds and so on. And Krishna busts everything up. When everything seems to be going steady as she goes, as they say, Krishna busts it all up. So that's his kindness. Now one has to get more serious. Now one has to, now what? Now what? He has to surrender more to Krishna.
I had mentioned Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on verse 2. The translation here is, seeing that the Lord, brilliant as lightning, manifested in the lotus of his heart by intense meditation of advanced yoga, had disappeared suddenly. Dhruva then saw that form situated externally. Then the commentary, the Lord going there, entering the heart of Dhruva, who had his eyes closed in concentration, showed himself to Dhruva. Then he disappeared and stood before him externally. Seeing the Lord suddenly appear and disappear like lightning in his heart by intense concentration through advanced yoga meditation, he began to lament like a person who has lost a treasure, since he had seen the Lord near him. His samadhi was broken, and he opened his eyes. He then saw the same Lord situated before him externally. I think we have time for one more verse. The purport is not so very long. Madhupati Prabhu, we were keen if you wanted to read another verse, since the one you read was so short before, and we're glad that you're back now. Could you read our text number 3?
Okay. Let me see. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhutala Gurudas Jayadvaita Swami. Taddarsane Nagata Sadvasa Sita Avandatangam Vinamaya Dandavat Drigbhyam Prapashyan Prapiban Iva Baka Chumban Ivashyena Bujai Iva Aslisan. When Dhruva Maharaj saw his Lord just in front of him, he was greatly agitated and offered him obeisances and respect. He fell flat before him like a rod and became absorbed in love of Godhead. Dhruva Maharaj in ecstasy looked upon the Lord as if he were drinking the Lord with his eyes, kissing the lotus feet of the Lord with his mouth, and embracing the Lord with his arms. Naturally, when Dhruva Maharaj personally saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, he was very much agitated in awe and respect. And it appeared as if he were drinking the entire body of the Lord with his eyes. The devotee's love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so intense that he wants to kiss the lotus feet of the Lord constantly. And he wants to touch the tips of the toes of the Lord and constantly embrace his lotus feet. All these features of Dhruva Maharaj's bodily expression indicate that upon seeing the Lord face to face, he developed the 8 kinds of transcendental ecstasy in his body. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmitanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Here, so we see that the Lord intensified his separation by him not temporarily seeing the Lord within his heart, but then he appeared in front of Dhruva Maharaj, and that momentary loss of the Supreme Lord, it intensified the separation so much that when Dhruva Maharaj saw the Lord, he was completely in awe and reverence. And he was seeing the Lord as if he was drinking the entire body of the Lord with his eyes. And his sentiment was so intense that he wanted to kiss the lotus feet of the Lord constantly and wanted to touch the tips of the toes of the Lord and constantly embrace his lotus feet. He was exhibiting, he was in full ecstasy and exhibiting all the 8 kinds of transcendental ecstasy in his body. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Maharaj.
The this is a sign of ecstasy. If I have my bhav straight, this is anubhav, the physical symptoms of ecstasy. A mother recovers her lost child and kisses him again and again and again and again. You don't need to do that. You can kiss him once. That's enough. But due to overwhelming feelings, the mother embraces the child and kisses the child again and again. So this is ecstasy. This is ecstatic love. It's not just a formal expression of the way that we might find in official dealings, Your Majesty. But it's ecstatic love. The devotee wants to drink up the form of the Lord with his eyes and kiss the feet of the Lord again and again and embrace his lotus feet. These are all signs of mature ecstasy. And it's also when imitated, it's just a sign of pretension. Someone makes a show of being absorbed in ecstatic love without actually having ecstatic love. Then it's just a show, and no experienced devotee will appreciate it. Sometimes we see that in sort of performances. Someone makes a show of being in ecstasy. And no, that's not what it is. It's spontaneous, genuine feeling from the mature devotee. So when we see that someone's not even following four regulative principles, but they're in ecstasy, then what kind of ecstasy is that? But when a devotee like Dhruva Maharaj is there, mature affection, then these things may be seen. Hare Krishna.
Joy. Thank you so much, Maharaj. There's a comment and question, which I think we'll save for next time, because it harkens back to the previous description of the Lord traveling on Garuda, but it's time for our closing kirtan. And I'm thinking, any volunteers to lead our closing kirtan? Madhupati Prabhu, would you like to lead?
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Gurudas Jayadvaita Swami Nitinamine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Premanande, Hari 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 Bol. Jai Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Stotara Sada Srimad Divine Grace Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Stotara Sada Srimad Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Divine Grace Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Kauti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. हम विचार हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप कपीनाथ श्याम कर्ण राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धननाथ जी की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मायापुर नंदी धाम की जय, नीलाचल क्षेत्र से जगन्नाथ धाम की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, गंगा मई की जय, यमुना मई की जय, इसमें तुलसी महारानी की जय, बृहद नगर चंद्र मुरली की जय, हरिनाम संकीर्तन कीजिए, समवेत भक्त वृंद कीजिए, गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees.
Jai, thank you so much, Madhupati Prabhu. And thank you everyone for being here. Thank you especially Maharaj. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Jai,
Samaveta Bhakta Ki Jai.
jai,
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
One comment from Murai Gupta that echoes the final verse and commentary. He, of course, is in Mayapur. Pankajangri once told me he had a dream of Krishna. I asked what it was like. He said he wanted to smother Krishna in kisses. Thank you, Murai Gupta Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Gurudev Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kantiya Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you to all. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare